Space Shuttle Challenger. On January 28, 1986, NASA's Space Shuttle Challenger, managed by George Hardy, NASA's Deputy Director, and Program Manager Lawrence Malloy, broke apart just 73 seconds into its flight. The tragedy killed all 7 crew members when the O-ring seals in the right solid rocket booster failed. Manufactured by Morton Thiokol engineers Alan McDonald and Bob Ebeling, O-rings failed as they were not designed to withstand the adversely cold weather conditions existing at launch. The investigation body discovered NASA's management of the project and decision-making process were key factors contributing to the accident. In the years leading up to the launch, NASA managers knew Morton Thiokol's SRB design contained a flaw in the O-rings. However, they did not address the issue adequately. Furthermore, preceding the launch, NASA and Morton Thiokol managers disregarded reports from engineers on the dangers of launching that morning, subsequently failing to notify their superiors of these technical concerns, which ultimately led to the destruction of the Space Shuttle Challenger.
Legal implications. The legal issue in this case is tort law, the law of wrongdoing. The test for this law is met because NASA and the contractor Morton Thiokol owed the crew and their families a duty of care. By disregarding the advice and reports from the engineers, there is a failure of duty of care, and as a result, there was loss of life. The precedent for this case is Winnipeg Condos, which sets the precedent for if there is a risk of loss of life, then responsibilities cannot be waived. The plaintiffs in this case are the astronauts and their families. The defendants are the managers and the engineers from both NASA and the contractors Morton Thiokol. All 3 parties owed the duty of care to the astronauts. The managers at NASA failed when they did not go through with checks with all parties beforehand to make sure the flight was ready to go. The contractors failed when the managers disregarded the warnings from the engineers. The engineers failed when their shuttle collapsed. Due to these actions, 7 astronauts died and all parties passed the test for tort law. The managers from both NASA and Morton Thiokol are liable. It would be a vicarious liability that is transferred to their respective companies. The engineers, however, are not liable since they did the necessary reporting to delay the launch. There are direct damages here, which is the loss of life and emotional damages that affected the lives of the families of the crew. An investigation should be taken to find out where the disregard to warnings started. In the end, a monetary value should be assigned to the families of the deceased. There should be restrictions or suspensions made on both NASA and Morton Thiokol to give them time to reflect on how to avoid similar situations in the future. A formal review of this tragedy should be made public so others can learn from it.
Ethical implications. Poor management and decision-making factors laid the foundation for multiple ethical issues throughout the duration of the project. Firstly, the contractor, Morton Thiokol, was responsible for the potentially catastrophic flaw in the O-rings of their solid rocket boosters and failed to make reasonable provision for the safeguarding of the crew members' lives by neglecting to improve their design, thus violating Section 72.2b of the PEA. Although they did not improve the design, the engineers Bob Ebeling and Alan McDonald, in addition to their colleagues, formally reported the flaw in the O-rings, the risk of launching the shuttle in adverse weather conditions, and tried to delay the launch of the shuttle. Morton Thiokol's Jerry Mason and NASA executives neglected to act on the report, endangering the safety of the crew and ultimately the economic welfare of the public, violating Section 72.2c, and 77.6 was also violated because the managers did not cooperate with the engineers and neglected their feedback. As the day progressed, NASA program manager Lawrence Malloy harassed Morton Thiokol management to agree to launch, having said, "My God, Thiokol, when do you want me to launch? Next April?" It was made well known to all parties at NASA that the O-rings would not compress and expand as needed at the current temperature of 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, by deciding to launch regardless, both Jerry Mason and Lawrence Malloy failed to make reasonable provision for complying with launch statuses, violating both Section 72.2d and 72.2j. In hindsight, Morton Thiokol management should have redesigned their solid rocket booster to fix the flaw in the O-rings. This would have resolved the 72.2b conflict as they would have made reasonable provision for the safety of the crew and potentially avoided the entire accident. Assuming this was not possible at the time, when Jerry Mason and Lawrence Malloy were given the report by Thiokol engineers, they should have notified their superiors of the danger of launching, and furthermore should not have signed off on the launch, resolving the 72.2c and 72.2d conflicts respectively.
Thank you.